Now it's time for another technique that I would not recommend to use as a major technique. I'm talking about frequency separation, and there's a lot of controversy, there is a lot of bad use. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to use it as an extra technique for your cleaning up process in non-destructive way, and how to use this in the right way. Of course, don't forget that I'm offering you actions over here, so you should have this as an action as well, but we're gonna do this from the very beginning. And to perform frequency separation technique, you have to create a stamp above your clean layer. So to do this, I'm going to press Command, Option, Shift and E to create this layer above. And if you work on the Windows device, that will be Control, Alt, Shift and E. So Command, Option, Shift, E on Mac, Control, Alt, Shift and E on Windows. I'm going to call this low as the low layer, and now I'm going to duplicate this one by pressing Command and J or Control and J if it's Windows, and this one I'm going to call high. So we have two layers, one is below, one is above, and we're going to start from this low layer. And if you're familiar right now already, you should be, and we're going to filter, blur, and we're going to use Gaussian blur in this case. And I have this set at 12 pixels, which should be alright. And many people would ask, what's the right value? There is not really right value for all the images, because each image is different. And this is the major factor, how you define what is right. And what you need to pay attention, as long as you won't be able to see the pores and some small details anymore in the skin, this is right. So 15 still should be okay. I rather would keep this low at 12 pixels at the moment. And then I'm going to activate the high layer, and I'm going to image and apply image to do the rest part of this. So as a source, and the layer of the source will be the low layer, because you want to get some of the details from the low layer. And also the blending is another super important factor as we working on 16-bit image. So if you have settings at 16-bit, which you should have in Photoshop, and if it was raw image, then your image will be 16-bit, of course. And then I'm gonna hit invert. So this is the look you should get. And make sure once the settings are for 16-bit, and also if it will be 8-bit, the settings will look that way. So there's no difference between them, but you just need to know once the settings are, and then hit OK. Once it's done, you're gonna press the linear light, and let's put these two layers into the group, and I'm going to call this FS as frequency separation. Let's see if the image change a little, because it does sometimes change. Many people said it doesn't, and many people said the low layer is responsible for colors, the high layer is responsible for the texture. It sort of is, but not 100%. There is still some texture on the low layer, and there's still some color on the high layer. So it's not necessarily like this, and you should be aware of that. And how I'm going to work, choosing clone stamp with the soft layer. And of course, this time, as it's actual layer, we're going to work on current layer. And with this soft brush, I'm just going to check where is too much of the texture, and I will try to blend this in a little bit, as you can see here. So it's sort of the laziness from some points of views, could be, but you don't want to really spend countless hours doing the image. And sometimes, especially if it's outdoor image, you are a photographer, you care about the time, and this is sort of the technique that could improve this, that could save a little bit of time and still give you the results that will be non-recognizable as some sort of distractive technique, but it still will be very natural outcome. As you can see, you can't really notice the difference, and this is easier to blend the skin that way and make sure it's sort of flawless. And we're still not working on the low layer that has very thin, I would say, the line to overdo the image. And also we only work on the areas where we want to fix the texture. So here we had some like weird pores on the nose, where on the nose we should not really have that pores. So that was easy to correct. And over here we have some of the pores. With the pores, the thing is that it depends on the skin, it depends on the look of the model. Some models have bigger skin pores, some models doesn't have skin pores. So of course, for the models that doesn't have skin pores, I would possibly never think of going with this technique. Over here, as the neck is on the background, we don't really have the texture, to do something. Also, I don't feel, by looking here on her tummy, I don't really see that I could also have something to do. So this is sort of the technique I wanted to show you, how you can even do a little bit more with the skin pores, but making sure that your image still look very natural. So keep in mind, you want to be very careful doing this, and you don't want to go too much with blurring out the low as well, and just for the reason that later the working with this technique could give you not really desired results. And right now we stayed with desired result that is very soft and gives you really nice and natural results.